Welcome to the video series on corporate accountancy. This is Satish Kumar N. Mahale, Assistant Professor of Commerce, Government First Grade College, Bada. In this video, we are going to review or recap the concept of underwriting that we have discussed in the earlier videos. Let us take up the points one by one. Firstly, we started with the meaning of underwriting. Uh, we basically know when companies issue share capital, they take the assistance of a person or it may be a firm who helps the company in raising shares from the public. So this person is called as an underwriter. So basically what the company gets is assistance while raising the shares from the public, and secondly, most importantly, in case if the issue is unsubscribed, the underwriter takes up the responsibility of uh, taking up the shares which are unsubscribed. So this is the benefit that the company receives, and the underwriter charges a commission uh, for the service that is rendered by him. Then we also discussed the concept of marked and unmarked applications. When the shares share applications are received from the public, the share applications may have the name of a specific underwriter. In such case, those applications will be termed as marked applications, and in those share applications which do not have the mark of or which do not have the name of any specific underwriter, such applications will be termed as unmarked applications. We have seen in the earlier videos, this chapter is all about determination of the underwriter's liability. So how do we determine underwriter's liability? That may be depending upon the situation and depending upon the agreement between the company and the underwriter. So there are various situations in which the underwriter's liability may be determined. One of the situation here in point number 3 that we are going to discuss, which we have discussed earlier, now we are going to recap, is underwriting the whole of the issue by one underwriter. As the name suggests that when whole of the issue is underwritten by one underwriter, so it becomes his total responsibility. Here, the marked applications and unmarked applications do not come into play because the whole of the issue is his responsibility. Suppose A company limited has issued 10,000 shares, and suppose Mr. X has agreed to underwrite the total issue. If there is any number of shares that are unsubscribed to the public, those have to be taken up by this particular underwriter or individual. So this was case number 1. In depending upon the situation, the underwriter's liability may change. Okay. Here we are going to the next point, that's point number 4. The it may be a situation where underwriting the part of the issue by one underwriter. In the first case, we have seen the whole of the issue by one underwriter. Second situation may be part of the issue by one underwriter. Say A company limited has issued 10,000 shares, and underwriter Mr. B, let's say Mr. B has agreed to underwrite only 80 percentage of the shares. Now what happens to the balance 20%? So we are going to assume that the balance 20% is a responsibility of the company. So in this situation, we have seen earlier that we calculate two types of liability. One is the maximum liability and one is the net liability, and whichever is less becomes the underwriter's liability. So this was clear with one of the situation. Now we are going to point number 5 in this slide. This was a situation where the underwriting the issue is by more than one underwriter. In case of large issues, one underwriter may not take the responsibility. It may be shared by two or more underwriting firms. In such case, the the agreed ratio becomes the gross liability ratio. So in this case, what happens is, first we deduct either the marked applications or the unmarked applications. So after deducting the marked and the unmarked applications, Then we determine the liability. Suppose while determining the liability, one of the we have seen in the earlier problems that liability may come negative. So this we term it as surplus. The surplus of any underwriter is shared to the underwriters who need the surplus in the gross liability ratio. So this is the way we calculate the underwriter's liability. In the last situation we have seen there is a concept called as firm underwriting. So when this firm, so basically we discussed earlier, it is basically taking up number of shares irrespective of his liability. So when there is firm underwriting, we calculate the underwriter's liability as previously discussed, but the difference is that even if the liability is nil, if we calculate and we ascertain that the liability is nil, and if the underwriter has agreed to firm underwriting of say 1000 shares, he has to take up 1000 shares irrespective of the liability which is calculated. Suppose his liability calculated was 6000 shares, he has to take up 6000 plus 1000 of firm underwriting, that is total 7000 shares. If even if his liability is zero, he will have to take up 1000 shares, which was the firm underwriting. And this concept and the details are will be given in the problem itself. So in this concept we are going to get generally 5 marks or 15 marks problems. You can check the previous year question papers. So I hope the concept of underwriting is clear with the videos that we have discussed earlier. Okay. Thanks for watching the video. Until the next video, bye.